Welcome to the Bamboo Project. Today is November 8th, 2020, and I am sitting here with Joyce Briscoe, who is running for office in the 12th District of the Bronx. Hey, Joyce, how you doing today?
Hi, fine, thanks.
So I was curious, reading your profile on your website, joycebriscoe.com. Which part of the Bronx did you grow up in?
Well, I grew up on Webster Avenue,
Oh, Webster.
and that was where I spent most of my formative years. I am the youngest of three.
Is in the projects in Webster?
Yes, it was Webster Project.
Ooh, that's a rough place.
No, actually, it was a very nice community. Oftentimes, people think that it has all aspects. I always like to describe it as having all of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able to make choices as to which part of that you wanted to be in. With the mother that I grew up with,
Mm-hmm.
you only had one choice, and you had to choose the good. And as I was saying, my mom was a single mom,
Mm-hmm.
although I was fortunate enough to have a very good surrogate dad. He was my stepfather. His name was Raymond, and he stood in quite well for as a substitute dad. Like I said, I'm the youngest of three, and so because I was the baby, they called me Baby, and that's what most people in Webster know me as.
Oh, okay. Did you guys all grow up in that same building?
Yes, we grew up in that building. I think I moved out of there. I actually moved out of Webster when I was 18 years old.
Okay. How did growing up in Webster kind of shape your personality now?
So I feel, as I've said, it definitely had the good, bad, and the ugly, and so you was able to make choices at a young age, and you saw you could follow the people who were doing things that you didn't want any part of, or you could follow the people who were progressive and wanted a different part of life. It definitely made you more aware of of people and who to choose to possibly be around or to choose as role models. But I still think that was my best example of what a community would look like, because you always had your what do they call them? Well, you had every aspect of what a community would consist of. And
Like what?
well, you had your what people might call the matriarch of
Like the mother?
Somewhat of the community,
Mm-hmm.
which everyone respected. You definitely showed respect to your elders. You had we definitely made sure we had block parties. We had cookouts. We would have different things for the community, so that they even had like somewhat of a, what they call it, I think Miss Claremont.
Miss Claremont, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
Like a beauty pageant?
Yeah, it was a beauty pageant and talent show. Actually, my sister, I think she won maybe 3 times.
Wow, really? In a row?
Yes, I think so.
Wow.
So she was very talented and very beautiful. And
Yeah.
they would ride like a float down Webster Avenue. And so I think we had all the elements that any other neighborhood would have. And so oftentimes when someone think of Webster projects, they may not see, those other aspects of it, but it had everything that you could expect in any other neighborhood.
So what are the things that you feel like you kind of taken from Webster or growing up around Webster to where you are now?
Well,
What kind of lessons, I would say, that you think you've learned that you still apply today?
I feel that, definitely it taught you how to read people. It taught you to respect everyone, regardless of what their background is, because everyone has something to offer. It definitely made you strong, and like I said, you definitely, you had choices, and you had, like I said, you had everything that you could have desired, as far as when you're growing up, and you definitely, like I said, you had some people that made good choices, you had some people that made bad choices, but you had every element and every aspect of life right there in that small, more or less bubble or your corner of the world.
Okay. So when did you move to the 12th district now that you're living in?
So I've actually been in the 12th district probably going on 20 years now, and I raised my two children. Most of their formidable years was in the 12th district. They went to elementary school as well as high school in the 12th district.
What school did they go to?
Well, they went to now, as you know, all the schools are cut up, but I would just say the campus of Columbus.
Mm. Sure. No, I know some people from Columbus.
Okay.
So, which part of the 12th district do you live in?
So I'm in the Wakefield area of
Okay.
the 12th district, and I actually I used to visit the 12th district as a young as a little girl, if you want to say. I've always had family and friends there, and so just as a visitor, I've seen how it has rapidly decreased in where it would be more a less desirable neighborhood. When I used to visit, it was very quiet. It was much cleaner, and the people you saw more of a community or family. It would seem more family oriented, and now it seems that things have kind of taken a turn for the worse, unfortunately.
Mm. So you would like to bring it back to more of a community-based district where everybody is kind of, I would say, more cordial with each other, or they're more, what would you call it?
Well, I definitely see that the quality of life has diminished or decreased. Definitely, White Plains Road is it's usually debris filled. You have a lot more loitering on White Plains Road. It seems that a lot of the homeowners have moved away, and therefore it seems that the people who are occupying the homes are renters, and oftentimes the renters don't take care. They'll have the same level of care or degree of care that the owners would have, and I just feel that things could be done better. Even if you're a renter, you would still want the best for your family.
I could definitely see that. So how do I put this? Because I grew up in that similar area too, so I have my own reasons and things that I would want to change about that area if I was to run for office. But what specifically for you led to you actually wanting to run for office?
Well, one of the main things I've noticed as a parent raising a child there, I was a single mom of two, and oftentimes when you're a single parent, you don't have the luxury of possibly being as involved in the community as you probably would like to. And so I believe that you choose your representatives so that you can, because they understand what your plight or your pain is, they understand the neighborhood, and so when they go to represent you, they'll go there with you in mind, and make sure that when they're representing you, they understand and they have a relationship with you so that you don't have to be there. They're actually advocating for you. But I didn't get that feeling as a single mom in that neighborhood. I did not feel that they reached out. I did not feel that they had a relationship.
What feeling did you get from that area?
I really felt like our leaders or our representatives, they catered to to the residents who they knew would reelect them, and they catered to those when there was certain, I guess, benefits to their leadership. I felt like they would make sure just those people who they wanted to be reelected by would get all the spoils of them being a representative. Everyone else, I felt like it was ignored and forgotten. So I feel like now that my children are adults, I actually have more time to dedicate to seeing people who may be situated like I was, possibly single parents, and I could possibly represent them differently. But I feel like it's important for me to go out there, speak with them, understand their problems and what they would like to see in their neighborhood, and I make sure I get out and speak to as many. Preferably, I would love to speak to each and every person at least one time during my my tenure.
Well, that's gonna be really hard. There's a lot of people.
You know what? If that's your goal, and that would be my goal. Because I actually was, as I said, I've been in the neighborhood probably going on 20 years, and my representatives never did I see them. I didn't see them going out and about on a regular day. I think they got into office and they became rock stars. So in the event that I could make it to some of the community board meetings, due to the fact, like I said, I was a single mom, making sure my children got to school, making sure I, worked and went to school. When I was able to get to a community board meeting, if they did come in, they would come in briefly, they would make a cameo appearance, and then they would run back out. So it was never that they ever spoke to me or had any one of their representatives speak to me and make sure they knew, if I'm in that room and you have my attention, I think you should make the best of it. But they didn't do that. And then even when you can see that the meetings didn't reflect the interest of the people in the meeting, because I feel like if you already understood me and my plight, then when your meeting should be geared towards my needs. I don't want to go to a meeting. I've gone to several, especially since I've had more time, and they look exactly the same. They'll ask people, what is your problem? And each person will say, well, I have poop on my steps, or I hear the garbage truck is too loud, or I don't have alternate parking. And you'll hear this over and over and over. They never seem like they had a plan of, I know your needs, this is what I have for you, because I already know your needs. And so I'm bringing these resources because I know that this is what you're looking for. They didn't do that, and that's what I would prefer.
Yeah, because even I'm 26 years old. So one thing I have noticed recently is that people care more about the presidential election than they do about the local election. And I believe that your local election or your local officials are the people that change your day-to-day life. So the things like maybe a pothole in the street, things like maybe you want to get a street light put up somewhere because there are too many car accidents, or maybe you want more funding to go to different things in your area specifically, you have to talk to your local officials. And people forget to go out and vote for local officials. Everybody, every 4 years, wants to vote for the president. But how often does a councilwoman or your position have to?
For the position that I'm going for, there's usually a 4-year term. Mm-hmm. And you're definitely correct. So many times people come out for the presidential election and they don't come out for the ones that affect them day to day. What I've learned in getting my petition signed and going out and speaking to a lot of the residents, oftentimes if I ask them, do you know who your city council person is? They would tell me no. I would ask them, or sometimes they would ask me, what do they do? What exactly is their role? And I honestly feel that that's the responsibility of that leader or that representative. You should, if you don't give them any other information, you should let them know who you are and what you do and what your purpose in their lives are. And it seems like that does not seem to faze them. They don't really care that people don't know who they are or what they do, or they don't feel a difference in their life because they don't see the impact that they're making on their life. And like I said, many times they don't know who they are. I think there's several ways that you can go about making sure your constituents know who you are and what your role is.
Yeah, I think that's probably how they can keep the status quo, because if you don't know when to vote or who to vote for or who's running, then you won't go out and vote, and nothing will get changed that way. So they'll keep going to the same people that vote for them every 4 years. They'll go and campaign in those specific areas because they know they're going to come out to vote for them. So they're not going to go to the areas that people probably won't vote for them, because those people are going to go, hey, if you've been running for the last 30 years in my area and nothing has changed, what are you doing? And is there a term limit for councilwoman, or I guess the office that you're running for?
Well, as I said, you have a 4 years for one term, and you can serve 2 terms. So that would be usually 8 years.
You can serve 2 terms back to back, or 2 terms in your life?
Back to back. I want to say if it's similar to the president, you can possibly go there for life. So you could only do 2 terms within a life.
Because I was under the assumption that I believe somebody else held their position, or they're off their position in the office for 20-something years.
Well, that happens. That tends to happen with congressional positions. They're only going for 2 years.
Okay.
But they can continue. They don't have a term limit. They can go 2 years, 2 years, 2 years till it goes. And they usually do that until they usually either retire, resign, or get kicked out. So that's how they're usually in there for 20, 30 years. But they only serve in 2-year terms.
Yeah, and I think that's, what is that called?
That's the congressional.
Yeah, I
Congress.
think that's very dangerous, because we have a president that's supposed to run every 4 years, but we have somebody in Congress who can stay there for 20, 30, 40 years. Whatever they feel like doing, they're going to keep doing.
No, but that's not, I mean, it's possible, but every 2 years they can be voted out.
Right, but if nobody knows that they are being there, or there's a vote for them, they're going to stay in that position. So I look at it like, if they're going to have a limit on somebody who's the president, then this person probably holds a lot more power in their area over 20 years than a president does in 4 years. So I think it's very dangerous to be able to have somebody be in a position like that for 20-something years. But I don't think we actually even said exactly what position you're running for. What is the actual position called?
So it's actually called, it would be a city council member. Mm-hmm. And in every city within New York City, they have smaller districts, and so I'm actually running for District 12 in the Bronx, and I would like to be the city council member of the 12th district in the Bronx. And
what do they do exactly? What are their jobs?
So, as you so eloquently said at the start, your day-to-day life, they really maintain the budget of your local community. So anything that the city, the sanitation, they make sure they have their budget. They make sure the police have their budget. They make sure if you want your roads repaved, they make sure that it's in the budget. Even if you want small business, if you like to be an entrepreneur, if you would like monies for not-for-profit, you would go to them. There's so many things. Oftentimes, people who live in a co-op building, there's monies that can go to them because they're almost considered a small business because it's like I said, it's a co-op. But it's so many things, and it's like I said, it's a shame that more people don't know and understand what their role is and how they can benefit from it. And it benefits that leader not to keep you educated. It's better for them not to have you know when their term is, what they're supposed to be doing, how often you should, either go see them or whatever. It benefits them because the less voters they have, the less voters they need each year. So, for example, we had to get petitions signed this time, and I had to get 450. Mm-hmm. The amount is always based on how many people voted the previous year or the previous election. So you only need 450, and sometimes they up it, so that means there was less people who actually voted, and then you have to, they'll increase it a little bit. So 450 signatures is not a lot to get.
How do you get your signatures?
For me, I've done it in mostly 2 ways. I'll go door to door with the houses.
With your team?
No, I am my team. And I really like going out on my own. I also go to very populated areas, maybe the train stations or whatever. But in doing it myself, I find that I get to speak to all of those people that actually signed my petition. I get to speak to them. I engage them in conversation. They tell me, what their plights are, what they like, what they dislike, and I'm representing myself. I've heard some not so great stories about how some representatives would send maybe the teenagers or some children out to do these types of things, and it's a really bad experience because they don't realize that something that they do or say is reflecting on their candidate, and they can leave a bad taste in some people's mouths. So oftentimes when I go and do it myself, first of all, they're shocked, but they're very appreciative that I'm the candidate and I'm the one that's actually coming out, taking the time to speak to them, because they want to feel like they are important and that you really want their vote. And so when they see you out there getting their vote and speaking to them, so then they could tell you exactly what's going on in their neighborhood. And I usually make a note of everything. When they tell me of a problem, I make sure I write it down, and I definitely plan to do what I can, if not forward it to the people who are supposed to handle those matters.
So, I mean, earlier you said that you, since you were a young girl, grew up in the Bronx. So I'm curious, like, what problems do you want to solve in the 12th district specifically that you have noticed living there?
I think sometimes when people ask this question, they want a rocket science answer, and I think it's so the answer is so simple. You have to have a relationship with someone and get to know that person if you're going to solve their problem. And I think that's the biggest problem, is first getting to know them, because everything else is secondary. If I don't know who I'm representing, then how do I know how to either represent you or advocate for you? Because I never learned who you are. I don't know what your specific problem is, so I have to engage you. I can't just say, okay, this is the Bronx, all Bronxites need this or that. Everybody is an individual. They want to, everybody, the same way that representative, they want to feel important. Each person want to feel important. And I even feel that, like I keep saying, I have been in my neighborhood, soon it's going on 20 years, and to never have seen one of the representatives come and knock on my door and say hi, because one of our representatives have been in his position, I think, 20 plus years. And I asked him, I said, you mean to tell me you couldn't make it to my door? Whereas, as I've been collecting these signatures, I have gone door to door to door. And oftentimes, if somebody's not home, I will leave a note saying, I was here. So, and I have asked everyone on my block, have you ever met this one? Or do you know who that one is? No one, these representatives, they seem to be, like I said, I don't know if they're famous. I don't know if they're ghosts. I don't know what exactly they feel is more important. But I feel like if you're in a term for at least over 20 plus years, you should be able to make it to somebody on that block. So somebody would have said, hey, guess who stopped by today? And I've never had that. And anytime I speak of this, people will chime in and say, yes, I've never seen them. I've never spoke to them. I've never seen them in this, possibly shopping in the supermarket or walking down the street or just saying hi or just wanting to talk to me. They just don't do it. And I think it's very refreshing when they see that someone actually cares.
Oh, so that sounds very good. All right. And I agree with that. I feel like everybody does want to feel like they're being seen. But I think that it's going to be hard to do that. How would you make everybody in your area feel seen? What would you do to do that?
Well, definitely once I start, like I said, I've had a conversation with several of them. Oftentimes some of their issues overlap. Then when you go out to fix certain things or you go and apply the funds to certain things, this is something that you've heard over and over again. In my district specifically, like I said, the garbage on White Plains Road is an eyesore and a problem. The loitering on White Plains Road is a huge problem. The drug selling on Gun Hill Road is a huge problem. Oftentimes you have certain roads that's not repaved, and then you have some roads that's constantly repaved, such as 222nd Street is constantly repaved. And in the other ones, people say, I've never seen this road repaved. So, or the darkness is in many areas within my district. You have some areas that's so dark. If somebody wanted to come out and grab you, you wouldn't be able to see them for at least a good 10 or 15 feet. Whereas I feel that if these representatives would even walk the streets It seemed like now they become representatives and you don't even see them walking the streets. You would see that there's a lot of unleveled pavement. You would see that there's a lot of dark areas. I recently saw this mayor, and actually her first name was Joyce, and I can't remember the actual place that she's in. They constantly talk about how she walks her own streets at night. And this is such, like I said, they think it's such a big thing. They're like, oh my goodness, this is a woman and she's walking the streets. If you don't get out there yourself and walk on the sidewalks and walk on the street, you're not going to know. And this is something that you should want to know. And I am an avid walker. I love walking. I used to walk for miles in the Bronx. And I still do. I mean, and in my neighborhood, I walk and I can see. Nobody even has to tell me certain levels of the pavement is the roots, the trees, the roots to the trees are pulling up the sidewalk. But if you don't walk on those streets, you're not going to see it. You're not going to see the people. They do not walk up and down. And if they don't see each person, they should have walked each block. Take a weekend and walk every weekend. Walk the blocks, walk the streets. A lot of stuff don't need to be said by the people. You have actually literally walked out there yourself, and you say, "Dad, this is not good," but they don't do it.
So I have a question as far as I like the way that sounds. I have a question as far as people who are loitering outside, and I have what a solution I think might be for that. But I know that right now it's a very tense situation between I guess people of color and also with police. So how would you go about getting people to stop loitering without having a situation where police have to get involved and it then causes a situation that we don't want to see between police? We don't want to see it where people are more afraid of police. We don't want the police to feel like, okay, these people are acting up again. So how would you kind of fix that kind of relationship between them, or at least solve the loitering problem without it turning into something worse?
Once again, I think it's very fundamental, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the police that speaks to them. Somebody needs to have a relationship with these people and see what their needs are, because they're out there for a reason. If they need money, maybe that's it. Maybe they have nowhere else to go. Maybe nobody else is engaging them in anything. Find out who they are, what they want to do, who they want to be. Trust me, if you have conversations with these young men or women or whoever's out there, I don't think, in my opinion, they don't really just want to be there, or they don't want to seem like a nuisance to the society, or they don't want the police to keep harassing them. Give them, I'm sure they have aspirations. Find out what they are. Find out what they would want to do, where they want to be. Engage them. Have a relationship with them.
Well, that's definitely an idea I can get behind. So how would I actually go out and vote for you? Like when do I vote? Where do I vote? How do I do it?
So there's a special election coming up. And for that one, it's December 12th. They have an early voting from December 12th to the 20th.
Okay, December 12th to December 20th of 2020.
Of 2020.
Okay.
And then the actual election day is December 22nd.
So December 22nd, the actual election day. Why are we having a special election? Did something happen?
Most people may or may not have heard. Our councilman was Andy King. He was expelled. And so in order to fill his seat for the remainder of the remaining year of his term, they're having a special election in order to fill his seat. However, his actual term limit would be up by next year. So you're going to probably see more people coming out in February getting petitions signed so that they can go through a primary. And, then in the summer of next year, you'll be actually voting for his seat.
Okay, so if I want to vote for you, I have to go out December 20th to December 22nd?
No, from December 12th to the 20th. However, for me, because there might have been some shenanigans, some people use some tactics that's considered very political tactics, and they were successful in getting me off the ballot. Although I worked all those hours and put in the time, they were actually successful in getting me off. However, if you still want to vote for me, you can make me a write-in candidate, and I have instructions. I'm going to tell you the instructions now, but I'm also going to post them on my website. I have instructions of how you can be sign in a write-in candidate, and you would write me in, put my whole name, Joyce Briscoe. You would bubble in the little bubble on the side, and you put Joyce Briscoe, and you can do that during early voting and regular voting. So you can vote from December 12th, 2020 to December 20th, 2020. And then on the regular election day is December 22nd, 2020. And if you want to still vote for me, you can, but you would have to vote for me as a write-in candidate.
And why? What did they do to get you taken off of the ballot?
Well, one tactic is to challenge each and every one of your signatures. Mm-hmm. And so if somebody possibly wrote their signature different that day than they wrote it when they first registered to vote, they can challenge it. So anything, sometimes people might print their name when you tell them to sign and print, they might print it twice. So there was a lot of little things like that. However, it's not something that the Board of Election does. It's something that candidates do or people do in order to get you disqualified so that you no longer are their competition.
Okay, well that sounds underhanded. I really hope we can get you in there December 12th to December 20th. And the election is on December 22nd.
Correct.
So you have a website. Is it Joyce Briscoe, JoyceBriscoe.com? Yes. If you want to go and read anything else about this councilwoman who will be running on December 12th to December 20th. The election day is December 22nd. You can go and get more information there. I appreciate you guys for listening to this interview, and Bamboo Project out.